The government of Venezuela announced on Friday the dismantling of a network of internal coyotes that sought to destabilize the country. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the displacement crisis is growing and aid workers are reportedly unable to reach victims due to insecurity. And the Chinese government is concerned about the Asia-Pacific confrontation and believes that unnecessary tensions could harm regional and global security. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The government of Venezuela announced on Friday the dismantling of a network of internal coyotes that sought to destabilize the country. This way, during the program Sin Truco ni Mañas, the Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, stated that with a network linked to which 3 persons were arrested, the extreme right wing was seeking to sow a campaign of fear and uncertainty among young people. In the same program, Cabello pointed out that part of the resources for this operation were financed by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. Furthermore, he assured that the term Aragua Train is part of a narrative against the country with the objective of creating a non-state to justify an intervention.
Yesterday, we finished dismantling the network of internal coyotes that has not been informed on before. But we dismantled the network of internal coyotes, we finished dismantling it. Who were they? Well, for example, that group was the one that worked to get Leopoldo Lopez out of Venezuela, and they were planning to rescue Rocio San Miguel and another detained person from a clinic when she was taken to be operated on, in order to extract them.
President Gustavo Petro expressed his condemnation of the United States and United Kingdom's refusal to support a declaration calling for the ethical application of artificial intelligence in the world. The president stressed the importance of establishing a global public regulation, warning that the lack of norms could represent a serious danger for humanity. The US and UK refusal follows a declaration on IA, which was issued during a summit in Paris earlier this week, in which 60 countries and regional blocs participated. In this sense, the Colombian head explained that if a small group of billionaires were to appropriate collective intelligence, it could lead back to structures where both public and private economies would have to pay for the use of digital knowledge. President Donald Trump announced on Thursday a set of reciprocal tariffs on his country's trading partners, what will match the rates applied by each nation to the United States. After the announcement of the measure, the president signed a memorandum on the matter, which will allow his administration to execute the review process to implement the initiative. Trump assured that the equalization of tariffs with other countries will lead to the return of pharmaceutical, automotive, and integrated circuit manufacturers to U.S. soil, boosting job creation. However, analysts have said that the tariff policy could backfire on Trump if his agenda increases inflation and slows economic growth, making it a high-risk gamble for the country.
And on trade, I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. In other words, they charge us a tax or tariff, and we charge them the exact same tax or tariff. Very simple. In addition, we will make a provision for subsidies provided by countries in order to take economic advantage of the United States, which a lot of countries do, including our allies. Our allies, in many cases, are worse than our enemies in this, having to do with trade.
Lawyers representing the Single National Union of Construction and Similar Industries of Panama, Sontrax, denounced serious violations of political prisoners' right to self-defense, condemning that they couldn't get access to their clients. Attorneys asserted that they could communicate with their clients following the mass arrest of union members who were protesting against Law 163 past Wednesday. Relatives of the detainees and workers have rallied for demanding transparency and an end to authorities' repressive actions outside the training and recreation center. Over 400 individuals had been arrested and taken to the Peace House in Caledonia. Some of them face administrative and monetary penalties. In Haiti, after a confrontation between armed groups, criminals set fire to the hospital of the country's state university, leaving at least 3 people dead and several wounded. The health center located in the capital, Port-au-Prince, was reportedly left in a deplorable condition. Precisely, the hospital was the only place where Haitians could access medical care, including dialysis. In the aftermath of the incident, health authorities and the media are on the scene, working towards reopening the vital institution. At the same time, thousands of Haitian families have been forced to leave the area due to the tensions caused by the presence of criminal groups and the insecurity crisis. Displaced people denounced the government's inaction against the organization that plagued the Salina neighborhood and other areas of Port-au-Prince. The Order of Human Rights Defenders warned that violence by criminal groups in Haiti left at least 6,938 people dead, 1,648 injured, and another 1,515 kidnapped in 2024. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. A rise in hate crimes has led Bahia, the Brazilian state with the highest proportion of black residents, to inaugurate its first specialized police station for crimes of religious intolerance and racism. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
118 million Brazilians have African heritage. This influence can be seen in organized religions like candomblé, which is practiced by millions of people. With a rise in popularity of evangelical Christian churches, however, crimes against Afro-Brazilian religious followers are on the rise. In 2024, Brazil registered 3,853 religious hate crimes, up 80% from 2023.
We've suffered racism and intolerance from the moment we were pulled out of Africa. It came with slavery, and this didn't change after we arrived in Brazil. Even though Brazil is a secular nation which has a statute that guarantees racial equality and the Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, it doesn't happen in practice. Racism and religious intolerance have been increasing in Bahia and Brazil.
Typical crimes against followers of African-based religions include evangelical pastors with loudspeakers leading exorcisms in front of candomblé temples, harassment of worshippers, death threats, and arson against temples. In response to this problem, the Bahia Civil Police have created its first specialized police station for racism and religious hate crimes.
Bahia is a state with a lot of black people and Salvador is a city with a lot of black people. Nevertheless, we have a lot of crime of racism and religious intolerance in this city. This is why we had to create a specialized police station to conduct investigations as quickly and effectively as possible and provide answers to society.
It's hoped that other police departments across Brazil will found similar stations based on the Bahia Civil Police model. Brian Meir, TeleSUR, Salvador.
In Argentina, social organizations, trade unions and human rights defenders participated in the resistance march held in the Plaza de Mayo in Buenos Aires. Every year, the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo rally against the dictatorship and the neoliberalism of the 90s. Likewise, the demonstrations became a symbol of resistance against the loss of impunity and repression of the Macrism. This time, the mobilization takes place amid a critical economic situation in the country. According to recent reports, poverty and indigence indexes increased 0.9% in January, being the majority of the affected people, the elderly and families with more than 4 members. The Prime Minister of Georgia accused the U.S. Agency for International Development, known as USAID, of planning color revolutions in the country, as well as interfering in its electoral decisions. The USAID was involved in the planning and implementation of revolution processes. There is concrete evidence of this, including video evidence, said Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze. According to the executive, the organization has also been directly involved in the political and electoral processes of the country. In this regard, Kobakidze expressed his satisfaction that the new U.S. administration is finally talking about all the irregularities surrounding USAID's activities. The Vatican informed on Friday that Pope Francis has been admitted to the Agostino Gemelli Hospital for diagnostic tests and further treatment of an ongoing bronchitis. The Supreme Pontiff of the Catholic Church had met with the President of Slovakia, Roberto Fico, as part of his scheduled agenda, but was admitted to the health facilities soon afterwards. Due to his health condition, meetings had been held in his residence, Casa Santa Marta, foregoing the usual papal palace. The hospitalization comes after the Pope had to interrupt the homily of a Mass in St. Peter's Square on Sunday due to breathing difficulties. Then on Wednesday he halted the reading of the catechesis to the general audience. Following the displacement and insecurity in North and South Kivu, the United Nations warned of the increased humanitarian crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The United Nations explained that the advances of the rebel group M23 forced the displacement of 350,000 people after the destruction of 70,000 emergency shelters in Goma and Minova. In addition, the entity said that half of the humanitarian workers in this area are unable to reach victims because of insecurity and constant displacement. The United Nations described as alarming the humanitarian crisis for the large devastation, surging the risk of outbreaks of infectious diseases such as cholera and measles. In China, the government urged to avoid a scenario of confrontation and political division in the Asia-Pacific region. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Yaqun pointed out that nations should establish relations and cooperation without involving third parties. The diplomat further spurred not to promote confrontational agendas that raise unnecessary tensions, which could harm regional and global security. The spokesperson implicitly referred to a recent meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where the U.S. announced an increase in the sale of arms to India, including F-35 fighter jets. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, that you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Authorities denounced the resumption of Israeli expansionist plans to occupy the West Bank and expel Palestinians. Palestinian experts denounced the construction of new settlements and roads by Israel, which exposes the strategic expansion plan. They point out that the shelters have been carrying out a gradual annexation in the West Bank since 1967, based on the division of the West Bank into corridors with the aim of separating the Palestinian cities and connecting the settlements by a network of independent roads. The Commission of Resistance to the Wall and Settlements warned of the confiscation of more land and denounced the violation of international law to make life difficult for Palestinians in order to force them to leave under the pretext of voluntary migration. In this context, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, criticized the offensive of the Israeli occupation forces against the West Bank. In a communiqué, UNICEF expressed its deep concern at the high human cost and deterioration of children's lives caused by the attacks and bombardments of the Palestinian territories. The agency denounced that in 2025 alone, at least 13 people were killed in the West Bank, an increase of 200% since the intensification of aggressions on October 7, 2023. The officials condemned all acts of violence, especially in the governorates of Jenin, Tulkarem and Tubas, and called for a cessation of hostilities in the West Bank for the sake of children and the population. The government of Greece declared a state of emergency on Anafi Island due to the earthquakes that have been shaking the area in recent days. The civil protection authorities indicated that the measure applied to the island located in the Cyclades archipelago will be enforced until March 13th. Previously, the government established a seismic alert for the islands of Santorini and Amargos. Up to February 8th, more than 12,800 tremors have been recorded in the area, the strongest being a magnitude of 5.3 recorded some 20 kilometers south of the Amargos. Heavy rains in Peru have affected more than 2,800 houses and 14 others have been destroyed. Infrastructure damage and roads were also affected in the Ica region south of the country. In a press release, the National Civil Defense Institute reported that the damage includes 2 educational institutes, a health center, 6.2 kilometers of communication lines, 200 hectares of crops, drinking water and electricity. They also indicated that they are still evaluating possible effects on the geoglyphs of the Ingenio Archaeological Reserve, where tents were installed in the sport complex by the municipality, as well in other districts of Changuquillo, Santiago, Parcona and Santa Cruz. Therefore, INDEC urges to keep local emergency centers active. In the second edition of the Islamic Arts Biennale is being held in Saudi Arabia, a meeting that seeks to modernize the Islamic tradition. Let's see.
The city of Jeddah, on the shores of the Red Sea, hosts this event covering 100,000 square meters with 5 exhibition halls and numerous open-air spaces, displaying more than 500 pieces, including modern objects and ancient works. The biennial, the first and only exhibition in the world dedicated to the arts of the Islamic civilization, is committed to the juxtaposition of relics with the aim of transforming the ultra-conservative image of this religion.
Islam is a lived system. It is experienced by billions of people from around the world. Our experiences with Islam shape culture, shape our understanding of ourselves. In the Biennale, this bringing together of the contemporary past really emphasizes the change that Saudi Arabia is going through. No other.
This Islamic Arts Biennial features the participation of more than 30 artists from all over the country, as well as guests from the Gulf region and other countries, allowing visitors to view objects and works from various parts of the world. Included in the exhibitions are displays from sacred sites, such as Mecca and Medina, including Islamic holy objects such as the sacred Kiswa. There are also collections from the cultures of Mali, Qatar, and Turkey, and samples from more than 30 of the world's most important institutions, including the Vatican Apostolic Library in Vatican City, the Louvre Museum in Paris, and the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
Yeah, for me, the Islamic arts context, it's definitely given me a lot of thought and research and diving deeper into what it means to me and what it means to us regionally. And again, it's about, I think, recontextualizing, reframing, putting it within the global context, but also historical, you know? So.
The biennial seeks to offer a perspective on the way in which diverse cultures interact and endure. By combining historical objects from Islamic cultures with contemporary art, it allows to explore the beliefs of faith through feeling, thought, and creation. The exhibition will be open until May 25th of this year.
And with this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us as well on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.